I sound a lot calmer than I should because I just filmed this video. It was a 30-minute clip and my microphone wasn't connected, so it didn't have any sound at all. But how are you? Welcome to another video. Today we are going to talk about romance. We are going to talk about all the romance tropes and books and categories that I enjoy. I'm going to give lots of recommendations and we are just going to chat. I would like to apologise that I'm not going to cover every single romance style book in this video. I'm not going to cover every trope. I'm not going to cover every category of romance out there. I'm just going to cover the top ones that I personally enjoy so I can give some recommendations, because February is romance reading month and here is a lovely video of my Valentine's gift to you, which is a bunch of romance books that you can pick up this year. So let's have a chat. So first, I would like to talk about some of the most wonderful romance categories out there. And we're going to start with these ones. So we have sports romance, billionaire romance, cowboy romance, contemporary romance, and also fantasy romance, which is my favourite, so we're leaving it for last. So let's talk about the first one, which is sports romance. So in sports romance, it is what it says in the tin. You have a sports team, someone who is into sports, usually the male character. Sometimes actually both the female and the male characters are into some form of sports, and they usually have to either work together or they're total opposites and they come together for some reason, like tutoring, or maybe someone's like an ice skater and the other one is like an ice hockey player and they hate each other, or you know, there's sports involved. So let's talk about some of the most popular ones. So first of all, we have hockey romance. So hockey romance or ice hockey romance, you've got an ice hockey player. So the main male is usually an ice hockey player, and 9 times out of 10 with hockey romances, he is the captain of the team. Who I think does this really well is Elle Kennedy. So Elle Kennedy has the Off-Campus series, and that's a collection of 5 books, and each of them follows like a different member of the hockey team. So the first one is The Deal, and it's bloody wonderful. It is like my favorite in that whole series. I've read 1, 2, and 3 and started 4. I would like to read 4 and 5 this year. Now, Elle Kennedy also has the Briar U series, and she has a 3rd series that's now going to be about the children of the Off-Campus series, and I believe the first one's called The Graham Effect. I feel like I'm going to be reading a lot of Elle Kennedy books this year. If you're looking for something to get you into ice hockey romance, I would heavily recommend Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. So Icebreaker is the captain of the ice hockey team and a figure skater. There's also, in the same series, you've got Wildfire, which is another member of the team, but this is set at a summer camp for kids, working as a camp advisor rather than in the actual ice hockey realm. And then you've got the most recent one, which is Daydream. I read this in January this year. It's beautiful. It's so wholesome. And it is about a lovely girl, avid reader, called Hallie, and then Henry, who is the current captain of the hockey team at the college. So a couple of my other recommendations are Pucking Around. Pucking Around I haven't read yet, but it is high on my list this year. I gifted it to Crimson and then Crimson gifted it to me. We are going to read that together, and it is a very chunky book. It's a huge book. It's massive. I'm excited to get into that one. I think there's other ones in the series, right? It's not just Bucking Around. I think there's more. And also then we have Collide by Balcabra, and then Spiral's the second one. I haven't read Spiral yet, but I have read Collide, and it was beautiful. It is about a ice hockey player who happens to be the captain, and then someone who's doing a research paper on sports stuff, and she ends up having to pair up with him. So it's a wee bit of forced proximity, a wee bit of enemies to lovers style stuff, and it's wonderful. So next in sports romance, one of the big one right now is racing romance. Racing romance, like Formula One racing, is huge. So I haven't actually read any of these books, but a couple of my friends have recommended them, so I'm going to list them here, and they are on my radar, so they should probably be on yours too. So first of all, we have Lights Out and Falling Fast by Jenny Fletcher. I think Jenny Fletcher has written a couple of racing romances that you should keep your eye out for. So not too many recommendations because I personally haven't read any, but they are definitely some to have a little look out for. Next on the list, we've got football romance. Now this could mean two things. If you're in the UK, it could be football or soccer, as it's called, or in America, American football romance. Think like Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's man. We weren't getting through this without a Taylor Swift reference, were we? Absolutely not. So football romance is another one that I haven't really dove into. I've got The Striker by Anna Huang on my shelf, but I haven't read it. I picked it up the other week because I thought it was interesting, and I'd like to try other sports romances that aren't just ice hockey. The other ones that are in the series can include First Down by Grace Riley and Playmaker by Diana Faison. These look really good. They're on my list. I would love to pick them up this year. And last, we have basketball romance. Basketball romance is also very popular. Now, basketball's not like a massive thing in the UK. It's not like, it's more of like an American sport, I believe. Like, we don't have a big, massive like basketball stuff life here. It's all about soccer or football here. However, I did read Night Shift by Annie Crown, and it was a basketball romance, mainly because he's a basketball player. You don't really have much basketball stuff in it, but I would like to pick up some more specific basketball romance books. So I've got The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. I would love to read that whole series. Actually, that whole series looks absolutely fantastic. And then we also have Beneath the Stands by Emily McIntyre. So this is another one that I have heard loads of good things about. I looked up on Goodreads and this is one of the top books as well. So if you're into basketball players, then this could be the one for you. Let's talk about billionaire romance, because billionaire romance is the second. Now, whenever I think billionaire romance, I think rich man. Rich man, and he spends all his money on her and spoils her. Now, one of the most popular authors within billionaire romance is Lauren Asher. She writes the Dreamland Billionaire series. I did not like this series. I won't lie. I don't mind if he's rich and she's not, and he spends all his money on her. What I don't appreciate is that when the billionaire is so rich, he's got no grip on reality, and the thing that he has to overcome, and she helps him with, is the fact that he's got no basic grasp of human rights. In the first book in the Dreamland Billionaire series, which is the fine print, his whole ordeal is the fact that he's a really crap employer. He doesn't have healthcare for his employees. He doesn't pay them properly. They get fired all the time for doing minimal things. He doesn't treat his staff right. And she teaches him how to be a decent human being. And I hate that. Like, I would not be falling for a man that does not have these qualities to begin with. However, there are billionaire romance books that are heavily rated, very, very high rated, and Anna Huang is apparently one of the best billionaire romance authors. So you've got the Twisted series, and you've also got the King of Sin series. So I have added those to the list because I would like billionaire romance to redeem itself in my eyes. So that's where we're going with that one. I suppose technically 50 Shades is also a billionaire romance, but it's not something that I would personally pick up. So each to their own. Now let's talk about my favourite, and that is cowboy romance. So cowboy romance is usually set in small towns, and it involves someone that works with horses or works on a ranch. Think big, muscly, working hard outside men who are bull riders, or you know, they work at a ranch or they own a ranch, etc. And the queen of cowboy romance is Elsie Silver. I fell in love with Elsie Silver in 2024. She is absolutely wonderful. So you've got the Gold Rush Ranch series, that's 4 books. You've got Chestnut Springs, which is 5 books. And you've got Rose Hill, which is currently 2, and the 3rd book is going to be released this year. So you've got plenty to be getting on with. Now, Chestnut Springs is the most popular. It's about the brothers who own Chestnut Springs, I suppose. And they own a ranch, and their dad, Papa Eaton, as I would say, it's all about his sons. And actually it's funny because the Gold Rush Ranch series is one of those books is about his daughter. So the Gold Rush Ranch is all about like the female friend group finding their men, and Chestnut Springs is about the brothers of the ranch finding their women. It's super interesting. It's really wholesome. Cade is one of my favourites. Beau is another one of my favourites. There's also Jasper, who's like an honorary brother. You should go read that. They're really good. Other than Elsie Silver, so if you've read Elsie Silver already, you could read Lila Sage, her Rebel Blue series. So there's a couple of them out already. Obviously they're at the side of the screen, so you can take your pick. And there is another one called Wild and Wrangled coming out this year as well. And there are a couple then on the list that I've got my little post-it note, but these are ones that I haven't read yet but are on there because I've been told to read them. So you've got Her Sunset Cowboy by Kathy Fawcett and Holding the Reins by Paisley Hope, and also the second one in this series too. Paisley Hope is another one that has like skyrocketed, similar to like Elsie Silver and Lila Sage. I hear a lot of things about those books, so I picked them up the other day and they're on the list for this year. I kind of hope I get around to them in February, actually. Let's talk then about contemporary romance. So contemporary romance kind of like fits everything that that doesn't really fall into a category. It's like your standard run-of-the-mill romance books that maybe like are just, they don't have like a speciality maybe. So you've got Emily Henry, which she kind of like runs that segment for me. So books like People We Meet on Vacation, Book Lovers, Beach Read, Funny Story. She's got a new one coming out, which is like Great Big Beautiful Life. I think it comes out this year. These are beautiful. Emily Henry actually got me into reading romance in the first place, so she is top tier for me. You've also got people like Abby Jimenez, who wrote Part of Your World, and what did she also write? Just for the Summer. And we've got Tessa Bailey, who wrote Hook, Line and Sinker, It Happened One Summer. LGBT representations, you've got Casey McQuiston, who wrote Red, White and Royal Blue. She wrote The Pairing. She wrote I Kiss Shara Wheeler. So if you're into more LGBT style books, Casey will have you. So there's lots to be keeping you in that category. I do want to give a little shout out though to a category that I completely forgot about but remembered before I sat down to film this video, and that is STEM romance, and more specifically Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood started as a fan fiction writer, mainly Reylo fan fiction, so thanks to Star Wars fans for giving us Ali Hazelwood. So she writes a lot of books about scientists, engineers, things like that. A lot of it's forced proximity, so having to work with someone that you don't particularly want to. So we've got The Love Hypothesis, Love Theoretically, we have Love on the Brain. She also wrote Checkmate, and my personal favourite, Bride. Bride is not a STEM romance, but Bride is almost a fantasy romance. It's vampires and werewolves, and it is the daughter of the head of the vampires, who then she gets into an arranged marriage with a werewolf, the head of the pack of werewolves, and her name is Misery. It's flipping fantastic. Perfect name for a vampire. And she just wants to like live in the human world. She just wants to like not have anything to do with this, and she's like dragged back in by her dad and forced into this arranged marriage, and it's a very, very good book. I would recommend picking that up. That does lead us very, very nicely into my favourite category, and that is fantasy romance or romantasy. This is where I thrive. I read a lot of romantasy books. I read a lot of fantasy romance. I read a lot of fantasy in general, even without the romance part, but my favourite trope of all time is enemies to lovers, and I think that fantasy does this best. So let's talk about recommendations. So if you're looking for witch and witch hunter vibes, you've got Serpent and Dove. It's a 3-book series. There are spin-off series books as well. You also have The Crimson Moth or Heartless Hunter. It's a newer sort of set of books. The second one comes out in February this month, so heavily recommend picking that up too. If you're looking for games, you've got Powerless, the actual Powerless trilogy. I loved the first one and the little sort of like mini book in between. Didn't really love the second book in the series, but the third book is coming out this year and I am interested to see where it goes. You also have Lightlark. Lightlark's on that list as well. If you're looking for things that are more cozy, you've got The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. You have Legends and Lattes, Bookshops and Bone Dust, and Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. So no matter what you're looking for, whether it's witches, fae, dragons, minotaurs of all things, other mythical creatures, there's always something there in fantasy romance that can take your fancy. So before we get into like trope specific, let's talk about some of my favourites. So the top on the list, Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing, now the first book specifically is more fantasy romance. The next books are more focused on politics and war, and you know, obviously there's elements of their romance still in that, but the first one, perfect. Absolutely perfect. You've also got ACOTAR. ACOTAR is one that a lot of people will recommend. It's about fae and a human that goes and lives in the fae realm and sort of the chaos that ensues. It's currently got 5 books and the 6th one is coming out God knows when, but it hopefully will get a release date sometime this year. Sort of like by that same author, by Sarah J Maas. You know, you've got Throne of Glass, you've got Crescent City. Both have elements of romance in them and they're perfect. Sarah J Maas is wonderful. Talking about bigger series, you also have the Shadowhunter series. Now it is about 25, give or take a few books long, but different segmented series in between. It is about a group of superhuman people who fight demons. And there's romance everywhere. Every single one is romance. So you get spin-off series like Alec and Magnus, which are in the main sort of like 6 books. They're in the main sort of 6 books, and then they have their own series as well. So it's super lovely. I'm going to read the next ones off pretty quick. But we also have The Bridge Kingdom by Daniel L. Jensen, which is a 3-book series, I believe, but I think there's a 4th now. I'm not entirely too sure. We also have Serpent in the Wings of Night duology, which the second one is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Some single book books as well. So we've got Quicksilver. The first one in the series is out, but the next one is not. Metal Slinger, it's the same. This was my favourite top book of last year. Metal Slinger, if I can convince you to read one romance book from fantasy romance, it'll be Metal Slinger. Can't wait to the next one. The twist at the end. Can't stop thinking about it. And we also, what else do we have? We've got Dagger in the Flame. It's not spicy, so if you're looking for something that's not spicy, it's a good vibe. And we also have Bark of the Everflame. It's currently got 3 books out, I believe, and the 4th one is incoming. I can't wait for that one either. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed that ramble. I love just yapping about books. A whole load of nonsense, but I do love talking about it. So let me know if there's any romance books that you recommend or any categories that I haven't spoken about that you think I should look into. And I will catch you all in another video. Lots of love. Bye.